Hello, how's everybody doing today? Jeremy Langlois here, coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens. So glad you decided to click on us and stay with us. We're going to do some little cooking. I'm actually getting started right now. We're just going to kind of jump in. I'll tell you what I'm doing and let you know what we're cooking. So it's October, so I'm sporting my pink chef coat, and we're also in fall. So that means we're just overloaded with things like corn and pumpkin and other squashes. And when it comes to these type of ingredients, and when I think of Louisiana cuisine, I think of the humble Mirliton or the chayote squash as something that's just a mainstay in our Louisiana cuisine, especially around this time of year, especially around the time of Thanksgiving. Mirlitons are something that's just classic to Louisiana cooking. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a shrimp and Mirliton soup. I've gone ahead and just wanted to jump right in and get started. So I have a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter, and I'm going to just start melting that right here in the pot, and that's going to be our vehicle to start cooking. Like always, y'all, do us a favor, hit that share button. We so appreciate it, and also we love interacting with you. So at any point you have a question, drop a comment, and Jesse's watching them, my friend Jessie behind the camera. She'll stop me and let me know, and we would absolutely love answering questions. And our Houmas House website, you can find all the recipes we've ever done. So let me kind of, so while this oil and butter is, the butter's melting, the oil's heating up, let me just catch up on what we got. So the Mirliton squash is something, while not native to Louisiana, came to us in the early 1800s, actually from Haiti, and the Mirliton just absolutely thrived in our Louisiana climate. So it became a staple of our cooking. And what I've done to prepare the Mirlitons to make this dish is, first, all I did was I took a whole Mirliton that you'll find in any store in Louisiana, and first of all, I just cut it in half. And when you cut the Mirliton in half, you're going to get two pieces. Actually, I hit the seed right in the middle. You'll notice there's a seed there. You can leave that in there for now. And what I want you to do at home if you're making this dish is the first thing you're going to do is we're going to drop the Mirlitons into some boiling water. And boiling, just like that. Cut it in half, go right into your boiling water, and then set a timer on your phone or a timer anywhere. Boil them for about 45 minutes. You can pull them right out of the water once they're done. Just let them sit and start to cool off. And let me show you, that's exactly what I got here. After they've gotten to a point where they boil, they get nice and soft. Now what we can do is you can very easily with your fingers, we can get rid of that seed. Just pitch that. And then you can take just a spoon and we can just scoop the pulp right out of the Mirliton. I'm looking to get as much pulp, but leave that skin because the skin becomes a little fibrous. So that's not going to break down when we cook, but everything else will. And that's what I did with about 8 Mirlitons beforehand just to get this started, to get that Mirliton pulp that I then just mashed with a fork. It's so soft from boiling for 45 minutes. We got some Mirliton pulp here that's ready to go. All right, back over to our butter and our oil. That's hot and ready to go. And like always in our Louisiana cuisine, we're going to start with our trinity: onion, celery, and bell pepper. Let's get that in there. And we're just looking to sweat these vegetables. And that just means cook them till they start to get a little bit transparent. Now you'll notice this is exactly what your pot should be looking like whenever you're at this point in cooking this cuisine. Notice how there's a lot of kind of extra butter and oil, and there's a good bit of it in here. And that's important because what we're going to do shortly is add some flour to this, and that's going to be kind of a basis for a little blonde roux that we're making in there. And that flour is going to pick up all that extra oil and butter. So don't be alarmed if you think, oh man, why am I cooking in so much fat here? Well, that's going to be used as a basis for our roux. And all you have to do is literally cook this for a few minutes, and they'll start to get a little translucent, which is exactly what we're looking for. Next thing to go in, always, even though we call it a trinity, we always got to add our 4th ingredient, which is a little bit of minced garlic. Just a little bit, I like to add that right after our onions and celery, just to make sure they doesn't burn, and just kind of saute that around real quickly. One interesting thing I was just telling Jessie right before we got started was Mirlitons were actually almost, the population of the growing Mirliton here in Louisiana was actually almost devastated to us back in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina came in. The winds actually wiped out a lot of the vines which the Mirlitons grow on, and there's actually an organization from Mirliton.org that went and started a program called Adopt a Mirliton, which encouraged farmers to grow more Mirlitons, and we were able to get our populations back up. So it just goes to show you what a mainstay staple this is to our environment and how we didn't want to lose that. All right, so we've got our onion, celery, bell pepper cooked. I said I was going to add some flour. And again, we have the recipe on the website, but I'm just adding enough flour to I see that it's picked up that oil, where I don't see any more pools of oil or butter in my pot. I just keep sprinkling flour and stirring, and keep sprinkling flour and stirring until I see I got that picked up, which is exactly what we're looking for here. Cook that just for a second, and now I'm ready to go in with that Mirliton pulp. I'm just gonna, it's already been cooked, it's already softened, it's gonna continue to soften as the soup cooks, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that in there. Cook that in all these fantastic ingredients. And that's looking good. Now we want to add our liquid, which is going to be the base for our soup. And I have here chicken stock. Even though we're making a shrimp and Mirliton soup, you know, I say this all the time, it's always great to use stocks. I'm a big proponent of in the supermarket or in the store. If you walk down the soup section, oftentimes you'll see boxes of these chicken broths and different vegetable broths, different broths. Those are your great friends when making soup. So much better than just adding water into your soups, because you're going to get so much more flavor. Of course, if you have a great shellfish stock, well, this would be a fantastic point to add that to it. But since I don't have any, but I always have chicken stock on hand, chicken stock just makes a really great, fantastic neutral stock that is so versatile in your soups and sauce making. So we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock in. Now look what I'm doing here, y'all. It's still very thick here, and all I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of stock and I'm stirring. Now anytime you're using roux, anytime you're using cornstarch, which are these items that you use to thicken soups and sauces, the liquid won't thicken until your water or your stock comes to a boil. That's what actually activates the flour or the cornstarch to cause it to thicken. So you need it to come up to a boil to see how thick your soup's going to be. So what I like to do is cook over a medium-high heat, which we're doing now, and just add a little bit in, stir it into your roux, and then let it kind of come up to a bubble, and you'll see it starting to thicken. And I keep repeating that process, adding a little bit at a time and stirring, add a little bit at a time and stirring until it becomes the thickness that I want it to be. And that's just a great way of, instead of just blindly following the recipe, I don't even necessarily need to know the recipe. I just know I'm going to keep adding stock until it's achieved the thickness that I want. You don't have to stress it. Super simple. So now I've gotten to this point, really going to kick it up to high, get this out of here, and just let that kind of come up to a simmer. Let me bring these ingredients over here. So this is the base for your soup. So which, at this point, you would just want to cook this maybe for about 20 or 30 minutes. What that's going to do is start to smooth out that Mirliton. It's going to kind of stew and even kind of crumble into your soup yourself. And that's fantastic. And we're going to add some few seasonings at the end to finish it. And like always, y'all, there's options. You know, personally, if I'm cooking this home, I'm going to leave it exactly like this. I like that rustic kind of chunky Mirliton in it. I think that's fantastic. But if I was doing this, say, for our Latil's restaurant at Houmas House, and I maybe want to kind of refine it a little bit more, at this point would be a great opportunity. If you have one of those hand immersion blenders, you could come in right now and just really puree it, and it's going to make this really velvety, smooth soup that's going to be flavored with all that Mirliton that's going to get pureed in there. So there's always options. That's one way you can go. But for this one, I actually like it to be a little chunky and rustic, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Now to finish the soup, this is the base. We'll let that cook. Now we want to add a couple things to it for seasoning and flavor. This is a little bit of ground ginger. I'm going to get that in there. Ginger kind of is that kind of spicy, almost citrusy flavor. And if you don't have ground ginger, but you have all the other ingredients, absolutely, this is something that could be left out, but I do find it gives it a little of interesting character flavor to the soup, so I enjoy adding the ginger. For the herb, at the end, I got some fresh basil, so I'm going to get some basil in there. Again, lots of different herb options, but basil is going to add some really great flavor to this as well. I'm going to go ahead now and just hit it with a hit of a little half and half or heavy whipping cream, and you saw how much I put in there. Even though it's going to be a nice creamy soup, it's really been thickened with that roux, and I'm just adding that cream to give it a little bit of body. And then right at the very end, You can make this soup even ahead of time and cool it, heat it up when you're ready to have your event or serve it, and then right at the very end, I'm going to go in with my shrimp. Now look what I'm using here, y'all. I'm using little tiny shrimp. Now this is completely up to you how you would like to serve it, but anytime I'm serving a soup, one of the things I always think about is how easy, especially here at the restaurant, that the guests will be able to eat it. And sometimes you don't want an item in your soup that's going to be larger than the spoon that you're going to be eating the soup with. So little shrimp acts great, but look, I absolutely love big, fat jumbo shrimp as well. So you can put those in here. Just know that sometimes they might not fit on a spoon, or you can cut them up a little bit. That is completely up to you. Now, because this is simmering, these shrimp, we're just looking to see they get a little bit of pink color, which they've only been in here for like 30 seconds, but they're almost there. Those little shrimp cook extremely fast. I'm going to come back with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and now I'm going to taste. Now, if you ever wanted to, let me show you kind of how we do things here at the restaurant, kind of behind the scenes look. Anytime we're tasting something and we know we might be tasting it multiple times to really dial in those seasonings, I actually grab 2 spoons and I kind of separate them out. I got my dipper spoon, which is going to be in my right hand, and my tasting spoon, which is going to be in the left hand. Don't want to confuse them because it'll null the point. But now I can dip in here, transfer to here, give it a little taste, and see what I think about seasoning. I'm really getting a little bit of that pepper there, but I'm not getting too much salt, although the flavors are really fantastic. So it just lets me know I can now add a little bit of salt in here. Well, now I can come back, really stir that in good, and come back to my dipper, dip again. Now I'm not putting my whole mouth in it like Seinfeld. And then come back here, taste and then be like, yeah, that is just right. And again, I love this soup because, you know, it's classic here in Louisiana. Shrimp stuffed Mirliton or shrimp and Mirliton casserole is iconic classic dish. And this is just taking that same concept and all those great flavors and doing it in a soup form. Come over here to our bowl. This is how we serve it. And again, just need those shrimp to be nice and pink. Get a nice bowl full of that shrimp and Mirliton soup. And there you go, guys. That's the soup. That's how easy it is. Once you got them Mirlitons boiled and scoop out the pulp, the soup itself is extremely easy to make. Love for you to try it at home. If you got any questions, hit us up in the comments. Love chatting with you guys. Other than that, thank you so much for staying with us to the end, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.